Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hockey Related. I'm Matt Trotter, and today we're talking about Nick Schmaltz.
Cross ice for Schmaltz. He scores! Schmaltz, he scores! Nick Schmaltz, right to the front, he scores! Schmaltz might get a look. He shoots, he scores! Chance in front, and a goal! And it's Nick Schmaltz!
His frame out in front, they score! Nick Schmaltz!
In the 2014 draft, Nick was picked in the first round, 20th overall by the Chicago Blackhawks. Schmaltz made his NHL debut in the first game of the 2016-17 NHL season in a 5-2 loss to the St. Louis Blues. He scored his first NHL goal 3 days later in a 5-3 win over the Nashville Predators. While Schmaltz had previously faced his older brother Jordan, a defenseman for the St. Louis Blues, in the preseason and the AHL, the brothers did not meet in a regular season NHL game until October 13, 2018, when the Blackhawks beat the Blues in a 4-3 overtime win. On November 25, 2018, the Blackhawks traded Schmaltz to the Arizona Coyotes in exchange for forwards Dylan Strome and Brendan Perlini. Schmaltz recorded a franchise record 7 points, 2 goals, and 5 assists in the Arizona Coyotes' 5-8 victory over the Ottawa Senators on March 5, 2022. It was the most points in a single game by any player in Coyotes or Winnipeg Jets history. Schmaltz became the first NHL player to tally at least 7 points in a game since Sam Gagner notched 4 goals and 4 assists for the Edmonton Oilers against Chicago Blackhawks on February 2, 2012. He was also the first player to reach 7 points without a hat trick since Eric Lindros had 1 goal and 6 assists for the Philadelphia Flyers against the Senators on February 26, 1997. Last season, Schmaltz finished with 63 points and achieved this despite not scoring a goal for the first 23 games and having 2 other stretches throughout the season that were 7 games or longer without a goal. Despite seemingly fighting the puck at times throughout the season, Schmaltz still managed to achieve his 4th straight 20-goal season and also set a career high in assists. As I've been researching these players, there are several landmarks or mile markers that help to define their careers. Most hockey sites will mention if the players played in college or in different international competitions. Many times it will mention where they were drafted and in what order, and then it will mention if they were ever traded to a different team. And then toward the end, there'll be a summary of their career stats or the stats from the last year that they played. As a genealogist, I use sources as mile markers to sketch out a person's life. A marriage certificate is a great resource because it's actually filled out by the person themselves at that time in their life, unlike their birth certificate or their death certificate. I like to think of census records as like a skeleton or a framework by which we can see a person throughout their life every 10 years. We can see where they live. We can see the makeup of the family and the family members they're living with. We can see names, approximate ages, and sometimes there's information about where they were born, where their parents were born. It's a great way to be able to sketch out the person's life. Another record that I always try to find is a ship manifest. Not just to the United States, but anywhere in the world. If one of your ancestors traveled on a ship, those ships recorded those passenger names. They recorded the port where they were picked up and also the port where they were dropped off, the different days that they traveled, and many times the people who they were traveling with. Like in a hockey player's career, the more sources or milestones that are added, the more credible and authentic the story actually becomes. Nicholas Schmaltz was born February 23, 1996 in Madison, Wisconsin, to parents Mike and Lisa Schmaltz. Their family home in Verona, Wisconsin, had a makeshift hockey rink in the basement where the boys played. Nick showed early promise in hockey. From the ages of 13 to 16, he played for the Chicago Mission. Schmaltz also played with the U.S. National U18 and U20 teams before being drafted by the Blackhawks and returning to Chicago. Nick followed his brother and played for the University of North Dakota and led them to a national championship in the 2016 NCAA Division I hockey tournament. He also played in the 2016 World Championship for the U.S. men's national team. Hockey boasts a long history. While the exact origin is debated, Canada is credited with formalizing and popularizing ice hockey as we know it. In 1875, the first organized indoor hockey game was played in Montreal's Victoria skating rink. The McGill University Hockey Club formalized rules for the game in 1877, including reducing the number of players to 9. The name puck was another Canadian idea, as was the decision to produce it using hard rubber. In 1880, Canadians changed the number of players from 9 to 7. In 1920, a team from Canada won the first World Hockey Championship held at the Winter Olympics in Antwerp, Belgium. In 1924, ice hockey became an official sport of the Winter Olympics. Nick Schmaltz is of Russian, Ukrainian, Irish, and Indian descent. All of Nick's grandparents also lived in North Dakota, where Nick decided to play college hockey. Nick's maternal grandfather, Sushan Thakur, died just before Nick was born. Sushan was educated in India and attended Grant Medical College in Bombay, graduating with honors in 1952. He then immigrated to the United States on December 10, 1953, and completed an internship at St. Vincent's Hospital on Staten Island. He met and married his wife, Margaret or Peggy Thistle, on October 19, 1956. They had 4 children, who are all practicing physicians, including Lisa Schmaltz, Nick's mom, who is a radiologist. Peggy Thistle Thakur, who was named after her mother, grew up in Ruth, Nevada. Both of her parents were born in Ireland. Her father, James, was a blacksmith by trade. James married his wife, Peggy Knowles, who was also named after her mother, in my hometown of Ogden on October 11, 1929. I tried to find out why Ogden. Peggy Knowles had an uncle who lived in Ogden on 24th Street. She listed him as the person she was going to live with on her arrival paperwork. She arrived on the ship Corinthia at Ellis Island on October 7, 1929. James Thistle also arrived at Ellis Island on the ship Baltic on March 12, 1928. The arrival passenger list said that he had a brother named Houston that lived near the Ogden Depot on 25th Street in Ogden. This part of Ogden was known for different immigrant neighborhoods. Many Irish settlers arrived in Ogden and lived in the area close to the train lines and train station near 24th and 25th Streets. Consequently, I only live a few streets away from there now. Like many families in 1929, the Great Depression was taking hold, and many people were seeking work. The Thistles also moved to White Pines County, Nevada, to the Robinson Copper Mine near Ruth, Nevada. At the time, this was a mine where workers tunneled underground. The mine is currently operated as an open pit mine. And that family history is just from his mother's side of the family. His father's side of the family came from Russia and Ukraine, and the Schmaltz name is Russian. His family came in the early 1900s to the United States. What I find really interesting is that both sides of his family found themselves all in North Dakota. I just didn't realize that there were so many people from different communities around the world that lived and gathered there. When I first recognized Nick Schmaltz and how he was playing with Keller on the first line, I really admired him, and I honestly considered getting one of his jerseys. But then later in the year, I noticed that Schmaltz was moved to the second line, and I thought for some reason this was a demotion of sorts, and that I didn't really understand why he was moved there. Now I realize that the coaches were just kind of experimenting with the lines and trying to get something going. I realize also that Nick Schmaltz is part of this rebuilding process that started way back in Arizona. Schmaltz and Keller, they're cornerstones or keystones of the rebuild for this team, which we're seeing the benefits now in Utah. I think it speaks highly of Schmaltz. Not only did he get his 63 points this year, but he also set a career high in assists, and he basically plays wherever he's been asked to play. He doesn't seek the limelight. He really is a team player. And I think as low-key as he is, he's a major contributor. I don't think Nick is appreciated as much as he probably should be. And his time on the ice is well spent. And I know he went 23 games without scoring, but you don't set a career high in assists by only scoring. And I hope to see very great things for him in the future. And I noticed that he got engaged to his longtime girlfriend, and I'm so happy for him. I hope he continues to find success and growth here with the Utah Mammoth. Learning about his background and his ancestry has shown me the hard work and the ethics that has been instilled in him by his family. I've gotten a lot of feedback about these videos, and I really appreciate those that have reached out and for the support that I've been given for them. It's really funny. My daughter said, "Why can't you be more funny?" She was watching the last episode that I did about Josh Doan, and she said, "Why can't you just be more funny? Why do you look that way you do?" And I've been trying different methods to be able to share information. I'm kind of self-conscious about the way that I've been looking, and I tried to use a teleprompter, and boy, my personality did did not really shine in those videos. So I appreciate the feedback that I've gotten from others as well as from my daughter. And so any feedback that you may have, I really would appreciate. I want to be able to give information that helps to contribute to the community, but also to be able to get this information and the research that I've done and get it out. If you have any questions or suggestions, reach out to me in any of the different social media channels. And I'll see you next time as we talk about how we are all hockey related.